So we need to ask ourselves, how prepared are we in the first place? You see, we're going to have certain opportunities in our life, and the more we can be prepared, the better off we're going to be. And we need to ask ourselves, are we prepared? Are we not prepared? Are we going to be prepared for those moments? Because when those moments happen, we don't really know when they're going to happen. And sometimes it's always too late because we just didn't do what it was to be that needed to be needed. We find this in the financial world where certain people know their expenses over time are going to get high, and they're just not focused. They're not thinking about what they need to be doing in order to make sure that they're going to be successful later on. They're just living in the moment, which is a beautiful thing, but also just not planning for the future. And therefore, they end up setting themselves up for failure because at a certain point, they just have to keep playing catch up and they can't ever get over it. And it's one of the things that I speak to the young adults that I work with, the 15 to 23-year-olds, is that we need to start preparing for this stuff. We don't want to be living in the future, but we want to be preparing for the future and allowing ourselves to do what it is that we need to do today. And one of the cool time when I really saw this happen was when I used to be coaching basketball. So I used to coach basketball for high school kids. And there was one kid on the team who was a phenomenal shooter. And he wasn't the most athletic kid, but for some reason, he just put him on the court. He wasn't such a great dribbler. He wasn't really good at so many other things. But when you gave him the ball, like, you knew he was going to hit the shot. But because he wasn't able to really dribble or to do anything else, like, it was very difficult to put him into games. So if another team was playing a zone, then maybe I would put him in. And it was really frustrating because, like, as a coach, I wish he could develop so many other areas of his game. And I remember one specific practice where we were all standing around in practice, and I used to do these free throw shooting drills, and I saw that, like, the kid just wouldn't miss, and he pretty much, like, ruined the drill because, like, he just wouldn't miss and wouldn't give any other kids an opportunity to do the drill. So I decided to do something, and I did it because I wanted him to start to build really his confidence inside. And what I did was I put him on the free throw line, and I took everybody on the team and surrounded him in a big circle. And I said, you have 3 shots. If you miss the first one, everyone's running. If you miss the second one, then everyone's running and you're running. And if you missed all 3, or if you missed the third one, everyone's going to run, you're going to run, you're going to run double. And I tried putting this pressure on because when you're really practicing, there's only so much, fake pressure that you could put on. And really understanding, there's a moment right now. Everybody's watching me. Everybody's circling me. Everybody was cheering his name. And it was trying to build up this moment to try to build up, try to resemble what was really possible later on. And it was so interesting because he ended up, like, nailing all 3, which I was very happy for. And he stepped up into the moment. And it was something that was really powerful. But what was crazy was the last game of the season when we were playing, it was before the playoffs, we were playing our biggest competitors. And the game, we were getting rocked the whole game. And we were down by like 12 going to the fourth quarter. And somehow we had some crazy comeback. And with about 30 seconds left, one of our players, we were down by 2, one of our players, probably our best rebounder, but our worst free throw shooter, ended up putting up a shot. Ball gets loose. He ends up going up again for a shot with like 3 seconds left. He goes up, he gets fouled, misses the shot. So he has 2 free throws now. The thing is that he started bleeding from his nose because he got hit in the nose hard. And because you're bleeding, the referee makes you make a sub. So the ref said you need to bring somebody in to shoot the free throws. And without batting an eyelash, this kid didn't play the whole game. I turned down the bench and I'm like, Strass, get in. And afterwards, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the moment. Like, this is the time where this kid literally doesn't really play so much, is now getting off the bench. He hasn't played the whole game, is going to be put into the game. We're playing our competition down by 2. He needs to hit both for us to keep it tied, try to get to overtime. And like, I have no idea what's going to happen right now, but I didn't think, and I just called him. He runs into the game, steps to the free throw line, drains both free throws. I call the timeout, bring him out of the game. Everyone's going nuts. And it's so classic that he would end up hitting these free throws. We go to overtime and we end up winning by 8. And it was such an incredible story because I think there's so many lessons from it. But for this one student of mine, I was so impressed because he really stepped into the moment of recognizing how precious it was. And, other players on the team didn't get that opportunity because they weren't necessarily prepared for it. But I knew we tried preparing. I didn't even know this was going to be it, but we tried to preparing as much as possible. And it was something that was so empowering to me personally. And it really started to get me thinking, like, when's our number going to be called? When are we going to have our opportunity? And I remember the first time I was on a team, I was playing basketball, and at the end of the game, we're down by 1. They're like, Bennett, you're going to take the shot, and I was like, what the heck, me? Like, I'm not the guy. And it was so, and I ended up missing the shot. That's another story. But it was so, it was so meaningful, and I realized, oh my gosh, like I always have to be prepared for that. And we don't know whether that shot's going to be a job opportunity that's going to come our way. Maybe it's going to be a date that we're going to be, able to have. Whatever it's going to be, we're going to have certain things in our lives that are going to really help us try to take it to the next level. And we don't know when they're going to come. So how is it that we can best prepare ourselves to make sure that when our number is called, that we are going to be able to step up into the moment? And I think if we can start to work on the fundamental skills, the basic skills, in order to help us be more successful in life, that's going to be the thing that's really going to take us over the edge. So when our number is called, we're going to be able to take action. And I think the first area of recognizing like where does the need to start to work on is, really this area of resilience, because there are going to be times in our life that things are going to happen to us, and they're going to be difficult, whether it's breaking up with somebody or somebody breaking up with you, or whether it's losing a job or losing money, whatever it is, there's going to be times in life that are going to be very difficult. And that's part of life. And that unfortunately, unfortunately or fortunately, that's just the way things go. But understanding that it's not about the thing that happens, but it's how we react to it. And for certain people, it takes them weeks, months, maybe even years to get back to where they were, because they're so living in the past. They're still living in that moment that it was such a terrible thing. And yes, it could be terrible. And yes, there's a time, to quote unquote mourn for something that happened in more extreme cases, right? But understanding that, there has to be a time that we have to continue to move on. What can we take from that? What are we gaining from that, as opposed to it gaining from us? Are we taking more control over it, or is it taking more control over us? And that is something that we need to start to focus on, and to recognize when it comes to all the work that we're looking to do. What is it that we're doing? How is it that we can start to become more successful in our lives, to make sure that, when things do happen to us, we're being resilient enough to be able to step forward and to move into the place that we want to be going. And that is like one of the first areas that we need to start to focus on. So how can we be resilient? How can we look to step up into it? And I think number one is just preparing for it, just understanding that things aren't going to go well, and understanding we don't even know what the things that are not going to go well are. Will give us a little bit more permission to say, hey, you know what? Let me take a step back. This might be one of those moments where something happens and I have to look to try to be resilient. Yes, take your time, but also understand, try to do it as quickly as possible, because there's not going to be a time where you're going to feel like, oh, I'm ready to go back into it. I'm ready to jump back in. I'm so excited. There's going to be that emotional pull that we're going to have to start to push ourselves into. And once we do that, that's going to be the thing that's going to help us. So recognizing that, I think, is going to be so key when it comes to really trying to take that action. So resilience is number one. The second thing we need to try to do is we need to try to build the muscle of taking action. And so many times, especially when we're younger, we're so scared to take action, and we start building this bad habit where we have an idea and we don't do it. We have an idea and we don't do it. And because of that, we end up hurting ourselves, because we're building this habit the wrong way. And because we're building this habit the wrong way, we end up just really self-sabotaging ourselves later on in life when we want to be doing certain things. And if there's something you want to be doing, not out of impulse, but there's an idea that you have and you think about it and you have the ability to do it, then get yourself to do it. And you don't have to start with such crazy things. That doesn't mean you have to start a business right now. But maybe there's like somebody in the supermarket that, can use your help, and you're just like, you're walking right by them and you're like, I should probably help them. And then you're like, whatever, like, I'm sure they could get it. It's like, no, go get it. Like, go help them out. Or maybe it's somebody who you're walking by and you just want to say hi to. I remember for me, whenever I started working on that, because that was something that always bothered me. Like, I wanted to say hi to people, like just random strangers and whatnot, especially when I moved from New York to out of town. Like, it was like more normal, which was nice. But understanding that when I was able to pull myself together to do it, like, that was something that I was working on. And at first I would say it and like they wouldn't respond, just because I think I was too low or I was mumbling. But then I recognized, I have to be louder. I have to be able to say things a certain way. And because of that, I was able to start to reach out to people and just have small talk. And it was certain skills that I work on and certain skills that I've learned, because I think there's ways you can do that. And I have a whole spiel about that, how we can start to work on our communication. But really understanding that we all have the ability to really work on ourselves. And that is something that is going to be so important when it comes to the success that we want. So recognizing that we have to build the muscle of taking action. It doesn't need to be the biggest thing, but it has to be something small, something concrete, something that's very doable for us in order to allow ourselves to take that action. And I think once we do that, I really think we can start to move forward with the different areas of our lives. Okay, another area that I think is really important, this is one of the number one place where I start with my young adults that I work with, is this area of confidence. And it's not necessarily a confidence in a specific area, because I don't think we can be prepared for that. And of course, we should try to be as confident as we can overall. But maybe I would say it's more the self-worth and self-esteem of ourselves, to recognize, you know what? I have succeeded in one area of my life. I can succeed in another area of life. There's going to be a time where I'm going to be uncertain about whether the thing that I'm looking to do is achievable or not. But guess what? I have the ability to really take advantage of that. And that is something that we need to start to recognize and start to understand when it comes to the success that we want. So if we have the ability to move forward in our lives, to like start to say, you know what, I trust in myself and my own abilities that I could get this thing done, then when that thing comes up on your plate, you're going to be able to take advantage of it. And that's what we have to start to recognize and start to understand. So realize when we have the ability to move forward with whatever it is that we're looking to do, we can start to take action and really just build ourselves up, build our self-esteem up. And the way we build our self-esteem and our self-worth up is by understanding and recognizing that the things that we know we should be doing, not like the extracurricular stuff, not like the waking up at 3 a.m. and taking like an ice bath and meditating for an hour, not that stuff. But it's like, when am I supposed to be waking up? 7 o'clock? Awesome. 6:30? Awesome. Like, let me get up at 6:30, because what happens when we snooze at 6:30 to 7 or to 7:30, all that's doing is reassuring ourselves, oh, we're not that type of person that we want to be. And even more so for somebody who wants to be waking up at 5 or 4:30, right? If we don't do that, then we end up becoming this person that's not that person. And that is something that is so important. So we have to recognize and start to see, you know, what are the different areas of my life that I can start to focus on in order to see that success. And once we do that, then we have the ability to really move forward. So many people are so not focused on building themselves up and don't realize that that's the thing that's going to help you move forward. That's the thing that's going to help you take that action. And once we can recognize that, once we can start to see that, that is the thing that's going to really be able to work with people. And people have to just even figure out what those things are. Like, what's your ideal schedule day? Not even ideal. What's your like standard? If you had to like pick like a day that was like a very solid day for you, what would that look like? What time are you waking up? What time are you going to sleep? What are you doing in the middle of the day? Who are the people that you're speaking to? Who are the people you're reaching out to, like proactively? And once you can start to recognize all these different ideas, then you can start to really move forward with whatever it is that we're looking to do. And that is something that's going to be so key when it comes to our success, that so many people don't realize how important it is. And we need to realize that if we can build ourselves up, if we could just trust ourselves and our own abilities, when things happen, we are going to be able to step up into it a lot better. It doesn't mean we're going to succeed necessarily, but we're going to give it a lot better shot than we would if we didn't have our own self-esteem and self-confidence. So recognizing that, how can we build ourselves up to be the person that can do X, Y, and Z? Because so many people, they attain something, but they're not the person who can attain that. And we have to recognize it's more important to be the person. It's more important to have, the investment, background and the investment strategy and the investment, abilities versus like the success of the investment. Because the success of the investment could go up and could go down. You could have everything, but then lose everything. But if you're the person who knows how to become successful, if you know the principles of business, of a relationship, the relationship or the business will go up and down, but you're going to understand what is you go back to. Somebody who only sees the success and doesn't see the failures, or doesn't know how to compensate for things that are going wrong, what ends up happening is that they don't realize that there's certain skills that they're missing. So when things do end up going down, it just spirals out of control. It's the difference between somebody who inherits money versus somebody who makes the money. Somebody who inherits money doesn't necessarily know what it really takes to build that up. As opposed to somebody who can make the money, he's like, no, I can lose it and I could do it again and again and again and again, because I build the skills. And that's what we want to try to become. We don't want to be the person just getting the fish. We want to be the fisherman. How can we start to work on that and realize who it is that we are? And building our self-esteem and our own self-confidence is going to be one of the steps to really make sure that we can start to do that. I think one of the last areas that we have to focus on is, especially nowadays, I believe, is really understanding that our emotions carry a lot of people. For certain people, their emotions run their lives. And for other people, their emotions are like the farthest seat back, and they don't like even think about their emotions. But I really believe there's like a balance between it. And many times, we could start to see our emotions and we can start to feel things and we can start to feel a certain way. And other times we're like, no, we have to be more logical right now. Just because I don't want to get up this morning doesn't matter. I still got to get up. Just because I don't want to go work today, still got to go to work. And recognizing that there's this balance. If we can start to have just a little bit more control of our emotions, that could be something that could be really helpful for us moving forward. And if we could start to recognize that that's going to be the thing that's going to be able to help us to move us forward and really take things in our own personal lives and really take them to the next level. And that's what we need to understand. So recognize that emotions are there. Emotions are real. Don't just ignore the emotions. So many people like to hide the emotions and then they come out a different way or they come out later on. Recognize that we have the ability to really move forward with our lives and to realize, you know what, there's so much possibility. And if we could just start to understand that, if we could start to work on our confidence, to work on our resilience, to work on taking action, to work on our emotions, those are going to be the keys to really just start us, just set us up for when our number is called, we'll be able to step up onto the free throw line, hit those 2 free throws, and really make sure we're doing the thing that we want. If you have any questions, make sure to feel free to reach out. And if anyone has, any other specific topics you want me to speak about, please let me know, and I'll see everybody in the next episode. Don't forget to subscribe.